What if I told you that 80% of your results come from just 20% of what you do? It sounds too simple to be true, but this pattern shows up almost everywhere you look. It starts in 1896 in a garden in Italy, where economist Vilfredo Pareto noticed something odd. A small number of pea pods produced most of his entire harvest. Curious, Pareto studied something bigger: land ownership. He found that roughly 20% of Italy's population owned about 80% of all the land in the country. He called it the vital few and the trivial many, a small cause driving a massive effect. And once Pareto started looking, he found it everywhere. Businesses, software, wardrobes, crime, cities, even viral videos. The same lopsided ratio kept appearing, again and again, across wildly different systems. So, is this a genuine law of nature, or just a coincidence humans love to notice because it's memorable? By the end of this video, you'll know for certain. We'll trace its origin, uncover the science behind it, explore how it reshapes business and daily life, and reveal exactly where this famous rule breaks down. Today, it's called the Pareto Principle. In many systems, roughly 80% of outcomes come from roughly 20% of causes. Simple to state, surprisingly powerful in practice. Back in Pareto's Italy, his land records were unmistakable. A small elite class controlled the overwhelming majority of national wealth, while most people held almost nothing. Plot that data on a graph, and you get a steep curve. A tiny sliver of people at the top, then a long, flat tail stretching for miles. Statisticians later gave this shape a name: a power law. A small number of causes concentrate an outsized share of the total effect across the whole system. Compare that to a bell curve, where most things cluster around an average. Power laws behave completely differently. Extremes dominate, and averages barely matter at all. Take language. Linguist George Zip found that a handful of words, the, and, is, account for most of the words we actually speak and write. Or take cities. A small number of megacities hold a massive share of the world's urban population, while thousands of small towns share what's left over. Decades after Pareto, quality expert Joseph Juran picked up this idea and brought it into factories, giving it a name that would make it famous worldwide. Juran's phrase, "the vital few and the trivial many," became a simple filter. Find the small number of issues causing most of your problems first. On factory floors, this meant something concrete. A handful of defect types were often responsible for the overwhelming majority of product failures on the line. In business, the same pattern held for revenue. A small core of loyal customers frequently generates the majority of a company's total sales year after year. Even software followed the rule. Microsoft famously found that fixing the top 20% of reported bugs eliminated around 80% of all system crashes and errors. Customer service teams noticed it too. A small cluster of recurring complaint types accounted for most support tickets, while dozens of rare issues barely registered. Bring it home to your own life. On any given day, a small number of tasks on your list actually move the needle. The rest is just noise. Identify those few high-leverage tasks, and you can often achieve most of your meaningful progress in a fraction of the time you'd normally spend working. Fitness works the same way. A handful of compound exercises, squats, deadlifts, push-ups, deliver most of the strength gains people chase for months. Nutrition, too. A few consistent habits, cutting sugar, eating more protein, sleeping enough, often outperform dozens of complicated diet rules combined. Even relationships follow the pattern. Most people find that a small circle of close friends provides the majority of their emotional support and connection. Look in your own closet. Chances are you wear a small fraction of your clothes constantly, while most of the rest barely leaves the hanger. The pattern gets more serious in criminal justice, where researchers have repeatedly found that a small share of repeat offenders commit a large share of crimes. Globally, wealth still echoes Pareto's original discovery. A small percentage of the world's population continues to hold a disproportionate share of total wealth today. Nature follows the same math. Massive, destructive earthquakes are rare, while small tremors happen constantly, a power law hiding inside the planet itself. Online, it's just as extreme. A tiny fraction of videos, posts, or apps capture the overwhelming majority of all views, downloads, and attention. But there's a twist, the long tail. Companies like Amazon and Netflix built empires by profiting from the millions of niche items nobody predicted would sell. Here's the catch, though. Real-world ratios are rarely a perfect 80 and 20. Sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes 90-10. The exact numbers shift by context. Treat it as a rigid formula, and you can wander into a trap, chasing false patterns, misreading small samples, or ignoring outliers that actually matter. Here's the strangest part. The pattern often repeats inside itself. Even within your vital 20%, another 80-20 split is usually hiding, layer after layer. So how do you actually use this? List everything you do, measure the real impact of each item, isolate your highest performers, and cut or delegate the rest. One founder reorganized her business around this exact method, dropping low-impact product lines and doubling down on her 3 best sellers. Revenue nearly doubled within a year. The first lesson is simple. Stop treating every task like it matters equally. Find where your effort actually creates impact and aim everything there. The second lesson, let go of the trivial many. Delegate it, automate it, or delete it entirely. Clinging to low-impact work only slows you down. The third lesson, this isn't a rigid law of physics. It's a mental compass, a reminder to look for concentration before assuming everything is equal. Try this today. Write down 5 things you did this week and ask honestly which one actually created most of your results. Start there tomorrow. Zoom out, and you'll find this same pattern powering the modern world. Recommendation algorithms on nearly every platform are quietly built on power law thinking. Data scientists use a version of this rule constantly, identifying the small handful of variables that explain most of a model's predictive power. Strip away the math, and the Pareto Principle becomes a philosophy. Simplicity beats complexity, and focus beats busyness in almost every area of life. Imagine a life where you spent most of your energy only on what truly mattered. Fewer distractions, clearer priorities, and far less wasted effort. The right key doesn't need 100 copies. It just needs to fit the lock. Find your vital few, and everything else becomes far easier. From a garden in Italy to your own to-do list, this quiet pattern has been shaping outcomes everywhere. You just needed to know where to look. If this changed how you see your own time, your work, or your habits, subscribe for more documentaries that turn ideas like this into action. The 80-20 rule isn't magic. It's a mirror. Look closely, find your vital few, and let the rest go. Thanks for watching.